Welcome to the Awareness Angle, where we break down the latest cybersecurity stories and look at what they really mean for awareness, behaviour, and staying safe. This is the award-winning podcast. We're going to milk that till it's tiresome. And I am one of the hosts. I am Ant Davis, and with me, as always, is my fellow co-host Luke Pettigrew. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Ant. Hey, everyone.
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. You?
Good. Yeah, all good. All good. This week is going to be a little bit different, but first of all, let's get the formalities out of the way. This is an independent podcast. Our views are our own. So if we say something you don't like, blame us, not the people that employ us. There we go. Right. So this is going to be a little bit different this week because we're on holiday. So, we're not actually on holiday. Luke's not on a beach, and this is a deep fake version of Luke. That isn't what we're doing. We're having a week off, so we've recorded this in advance because we didn't want you guys to miss us. So we're trying something new this week that we've been thinking about doing for a little while. So no news. Sorry, guys, there's no news. There may be a newsletter. Depends how newsworthy things are, but there may be a news-related newsletter. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But right now, today, we're looking forward. So for security awareness professionals, this might be a great episode for you because we're looking forward to October, to Cybersecurity Month that comes around every year, where security awareness professionals around the globe scratch their heads going, oh, what am I going to do this year? So we're helping you out, aren't we, Luke?
Yeah, hopefully with that. Get some good ideas going around.
We, with the abundance of AI tools around now, we thought, why not ask our AI friends what we could do? And then we're going to talk through what ChatGPT says we could do and see whether or not it's actually any good or gives us enough detail. So this week, we're going to talk about the top 10 strategies to enhance cybersecurity awareness among your colleagues. So if you're in a business and you're tasked with keeping people safe, this might be a good listen.
Yeah.
So should we get in with it? This is the top 10, ChatGPT's top 10 strategies to enhance cybersecurity awareness among colleagues.
Yeah, let's see how accurate they
Shall
are.
I go 1 to 10 or 10 to 1? What shall I do?
Let's go 10 to 1, I guess. I don't know if they're
10
ordered.
to 1. I don't know. So number 10 is a lovely one. Okay. Maintain open communication channels.
Yeah.
Establish clear lines of communication for reporting security concerns and ensure that employees feel comfortable seeking assistance or clarification.
Yeah, it's a good one to sort of a basic one in a way, but not a lot of people are open to having these sorts of free communications. Often it's sort of filtered through ticket systems and behind a robotic type system, automated.
I think this is sometimes a challenge, depending on the organisation, of who in the team will be approachable, because not everyone that works in a security function is approachable, and not everyone that works in a security function wants to be approachable or human facing.
Yeah.
So finding those that do is probably quite important.
Yeah, I guess you could, depending on your size, have a few people from each area rather than trying to expect everybody to, or one specific department to do it.
I mean, this is a real good place where champions would come in if you have a security champions initiative.
Yeah.
Having them being able to signpost, support and promote your champions, and having them as like a first port of call would be really, really good if you are an organisation big enough to have one.
No, it's definitely an option. I think as well with I think most businesses use Meet or Slack, stuff like that. So having channels on there that are open for conversation, even a few different ones, kind of a more social sort of open channel for people to talk about the latest going on in the world. But then maybe let's semi-support channel that sort of signposts people.
I think the worst part when something goes wrong is not knowing who to call or when to call, and not knowing, like, if you compare it to real world life, okay, like if I fall off, if my kid falls off their bike and they've hurt themselves, you have to make a judgment call really quickly. Do you take them to hospital? Do you call 111 if they're unwell? Do you call 999? You know, in America, do you call 911? Do you take them to the local, health center or wherever? So you have to make those judgment calls really quickly. But I'm familiar with what all of those options are. Does everyone in your organization know what the options are?
Yeah.
And do they know where that threshold is? Like, if we both used to work in help desk, right? And occasionally you get someone going, I saw my mouse move. I saw my mouse moved and I didn't move it. And that can start, like, we've seen that in security organisations where that starts an investigation, as in, is there a rogue actor on their computer? Is someone from help desk dialed into their machine when really they've just shuffled paper on their desk and didn't realise they moved their mouse and it's twitched, But it's knowing where that baseline is, like, and now, especially now, in everyone's heightened with all the recent cyber attacks that have happened since Easter, it's like, tell your people where that line is.
Yeah.
If you, where, at what level do you want to know if something feels off?
Yeah. I guess it depends on your sort of setup and stuff, but having a clear contact point, whether it's an email address, a portal, a phone number, just keep emphasizing these points of contact. I think often you sort of do it once, maybe when they're onboarded, or you'd sort of do it a few times, but doing it often is probably where you want to be.
It's also worth remembering that we're immersed in it day in, day out, whereas Kevin in accounts or Karen in the people team isn't. So, like, they've got 1,000,001 other things to think about. So you do have to keep banging that drum. And in every communication, every email footer that you have, it should have security concern, contact, security at, or dial 555 or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. That's good. That's number 10, maintain open communication channels. Coming in at number 9, recognize and reward good security practices. Acknowledge employees who demonstrate exemplary security behaviours to motivate others and reinforce positive actions.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, perhaps a difficult one to implement in some cases, but I think it helps a lot if people are recognised to sort of want to do the right thing, just to get some recognition, or just to help others sort of understand the importance of it.
I think you're always going to get your users that are hyper engaged. So maybe champions, but those that aren't champions but just care about it or are interested in it. So they're going to constantly engage. So it'd be really easy to just go, we do it on the podcast. Hayden reaches out all the time. Ollie's providing us stories occasionally. And it's like, that's brilliant. We love that. But then if someone new comes along that doesn't often reach out, it's really important that you value their contribution so they will come again and again. And it's the same with good security practices. If someone spots something that prevented a massive incident, and it wasn't you, it wasn't the awareness team, it was the SOC, or it was, an engineering team or some other team, let them let you know and be the mouthpiece to congratulate them for that great piece of collaboration work or whatever. I think that's really important, isn't it?
No, I guess, if you have the platforms that it can help you sort of track these behaviours as well, it could be really quite a nice way to do it. You can sort of, get stats of these people, and helps you sort of know who's doing well and the right thing. Maybe help you maybe help you look at areas of the business that aren't engaging as well. So
Yeah. I think if you have some kind of human risk measurement matrix and you can see the people that are making a difference, that are changing, you know, if Luke clicked on every phishing email for 4 months and you failed every simulation for 4 months, and then in months 5 and 6 you didn't, like, well done.
Yeah.
Greatest improvement. But you've got to be careful not to flag the fact that you were rubbish beforehand.
Yeah, maybe.
Or not rubbish, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Actually, got to be careful around the way you word it. Yeah.
Yes. Sing the success stories, though. I think that's the important part here. Like, talk about the successes. Talk
Not
about
even,
the good stuff.
I guess not even just employees, but the team itself as well.
Ooh.
Like making people aware that you're actually making a difference.
And it could even be, if you've got technical functions, it could even be well done to this team for, you know, patching all of their servers in X amount of time, or, you know, consistently being above this level, or well done for this team for helping us roll out this initiative. It doesn't have to be end users. It can be teams that then build collaboration with the whole of cyber. Quite often, awareness teams are the most vocal mouthpiece of a cyber function. So if you want others to work with you, we're like the PR function. So yeah, shout about it. Say thank you.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, isn't it? It's saying thank you.
Yeah.
For good behaviour.
I think so.
Yeah. Right. That was number 9, recognise and reward good security practices. Coming in at number 8, offer interactive learning opportunities. Use gamified learning modules or interactive workshops to engage employees and reinforce cybersecurity concepts. This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Interactive learning opportunities. So gamified learning modules versus, if we're talking training, gamified learning modules versus being lectured at in a training course. Gamification will always win. The more interactive it is, the more it makes people think in a different way, the more they're going to remember and take away from it.
Yeah.
No one wants to be asking questions about how big the fine that this company received for this breach and what is the fine when this data breach happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gamification is proven to, I'm pretty sure it's proven to help with knowledge retention.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And interactive workshops, when we worked together, I wanted to do this, but we never got the opportunity. I do wonder what would have been different if COVID and lockdowns hadn't have hit. But getting in front of people, getting people in a room to talk about stuff, getting them on interactive live sessions to talk about stuff. There's a million different ideas you can do and a million ways to engage with people. Escape rooms is a great one. You know, I often question the scalability, but we've had conversations with Amy at the Cyber Escape Room Co. about the fact they are scalable.
Yeah. I guess
Stuff like that would be really good.
Yeah. I guess it depends on your business and how big the team is and stuff, but there's obviously there's external options to bring people in to come and run some workshops. But yeah, I think some people like the gamification side of things with like leaderboards and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely better than being sort of talked at or just following a piece of training that is just a lot of text and nothing. You don't really learn anything. You sort of have to click through it. Just getting people involved.
It's tough though, isn't it? Because there is also adding fluff because you think it looks good versus you've got to put yourself in the eye of the end user. We've seen training before where we've asked for things to be slimmed down and reduced and cut down just because they're a little long, and if an end user sat there and they just want to get on with it, you know, you don't want too many barriers. Most often people are doing training or education because they have to, not because they necessarily want to.
Yeah.
So unnecessary clicks, unnecessary waiting. Like, make sure it's all adding value or telling a story, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think sort of if they're quick and sort of accessible for people to just sort of jump in and out of, or like these little bite-sized sort of learning pieces. Or there's probably platforms out there that will sort of nudge someone to sort of take part in a module or something, and every now and then you sort of take part and do it, just to keep sort of refreshing your knowledge and stuff.
Do you know the Wikipedia page for security awareness says the role of gamification and interactive training says modern security awareness programs increasingly utilize gamification and interactive learning modules. Studies have shown that engaging employees through serious game and some other stuff helps improve retention and application of security practices. So, yeah. I don't know what the source on that is, though. So,
yeah.
Do I know what the source is? Oh, the Journal of Business Research. So it is a legitimate source. From June 2024, gamification in workforce training, improving employees' self-efficacy and information security and data protection behaviours. So there's a paper on it. So there you go. It must be true.
Yeah.
Number 7. I think this should be higher. Number 7, highlight real-world consequences.
Yeah.
Share anonymized case studies of security breaches to illustrate the potential impact of cybersecurity lapses. Who's anonymizing that? Just like shout it loud and proud. There's a discussion to be had around that, isn't there? Because if you anonymize it,
well, yeah, it loses its impact, doesn't it?
Of course. Yeah. You know, I felt that firsthand. If you're literally just saying a large retailer has been attacked, or not even that, a company has been attacked, how is that relatable? But if you're saying it's the shop on the corner, you know, if it's like your local, it's where you do your weekly shop, or it's the brand whose clothes you're wearing, you know, straight away that's relatable. It's real. Yeah. It impacts you. What happens when I want another T-shirt from Adidas, or I want to go to Marks and Spencer's to get some Percy Pigs? They've been attacked. You can't take my Percy Pigs away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I think definitely, just has a much bigger impact. Helps you sort of show that it is a real thing, that people actually do face these sorts of security breaches and attacks, and it could happen to you and your business, sort of thing.
That's key, isn't it? We used to do this all the time when we worked together. We talked about other things and then we brought them back to how it was relatable to our world.
Yeah.
So if it was a Google compromise, for example, it would then be, we use Google and we're there's Google kicking in. Hang on. Shush now, Google. Yeah, it's make it relative and make it real. And if there's any way to tie it in with the technologies or the business or the suppliers or the companies or the location, anything you use, that just makes it more real to your people.
Yeah. No, it's a good one, yeah.
You ready for number 6?
Yeah.
Provide clear policies and guidelines. Develop and disseminate clear, accessible policies regarding acceptable use, data handling, and incident reporting to ensure employees understand their responsibilities. So, who here can say they've read the acceptable use policy for their employer?
Yeah, I think it's one that everybody struggles with, I'm sure, in the team.
We spoke about this on the podcast some time ago, and I was going to go away and find out, and I didn't actually. I need to do this. Find out how much the policies we have in a cyber security function need to be written in legalese or can be written in a nice, accessible, friendly tone.
Yeah.
And it's the view that you write them from as well. Like all of the ones I'm familiar with, write them from the company's perspective. you must do this, you must not do that. It is considered bad practice if you were to do this. But why aren't we saying, like, as a colleague, you can do this. You can, do it from the colleague's perspective. Let's not talk about removable media, and let's talk about things in the way that they would understand. If you want to transfer a file from one device to another, if you want to, let's keep them simple, keep them human.
I think it's difficult in that way of, you often don't fully explain the reasons behind it in a policy, or really potentially give the actual best practice of how you should do it. It's often just a must and must not list.
I have to say, I have to give, a few years ago, she's at Think Cyber, Red Flags now, but Lucy Finlay, who's their previous employer, I went to see her because she'd written this amazing document, and it was a reverse policy lookup. And from memory, I think it was a PDF file. And you literally, the end user, the colleague, could go to that document and look at what they wanted to do, and it would then tell them in reverse, you can do this, you can do that. And I know we tried building similar. It's a difficult thing to flesh out. AI really can help with this, I would have thought, if you're allowed to get your policies into AI and ask it to flip the script and change the perspective.
Yeah, I'm sure
even better if you can build some AI chatbot that a user can go, I want to do this. And it goes, the acceptable use policy says you can do this, but you can't do that. It's like perfect. So
I think more and more, businesses are probably trying to take that approach, and platforms are probably out there now to offer that. I guess it's difficult with all the regulations and laws and stuff around the world. I'm sure some of these things probably have to be that way, but definitely having a accessible front end.
It must be difficult now. I know in certain countries in Europe, acceptable use policies need to go through workers' councils and stuff. So they all need to make sure that the workers' rights are intact. And I'm sure there's one country where you have to be really careful what punishment you bring down on someone should they not meet that, because workers' rights and stuff like that. So it is a really murky area. I wonder if there's a way of having an acceptable use policy really minimal, and then having like a employee cyber charter or something like that, which is more of an agreement rather than a policy. I don't know.
It's a difficult one to fulfill that sort of, providing clear policies and guidelines, but I guess it's got to be done.
Let's move on to number 5. So we're at the halfway point now. Number 5, foster a culture of security awareness. Integrate cybersecurity into the organizational culture by making it a shared responsibility and encouraging open discussions about security practices. Now, this could be a whole episode in itself. I've been on at least 2 webinars in the last 12 months as a participant that have been on this topic.
Yeah.
So it's, there's lots to be discussed on this, but getting cyber security awareness across everything is vital, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It sort of goes back to the number 10 of open communication channels, and helping people understand that it is a shared responsibility, and often they are the most important part of a security program, really.
Just hearing it spoken about often does that. If you are visible and you are out there talking about cybersecurity to your colleagues, you're already making it part of the culture. Yeah. Single-handedly.
Yes, like having a brand and newsletters and channels on platforms like Slack or Teams, and off just regularly sharing stuff.
Just making noise, but standing out and being, making people pay attention, telling good stories. And then if you can get senior leaders in on a slice of that as well and get them to occasionally mention something, it's a great way to get it properly embedded and get everyone considering it, keeping it front of mind.
Yeah, I think as well, like running like culture studies and surveys and stuff across the year, and sharing that as well, so that everybody can sort of see the results and understand the sort of current culture at the business, and you can sort of run that regularly and get some data and trends that will probably help understand the culture and where you can focus sort of efforts on.
You've got perceptions to change there as well, because there will be people in your organisation that think the cyber function is there, the information security team is there to act like the police or enforcement, and you should be a trusted friend, an ally, a reliable, should be a shoulder to cry on, someone to listen, someone to offer support. You definitely shouldn't be the police or I mean, the police should be seen as that as well, shouldn't they? But they're not quite often. They're seen as like this brutal force that, will punish.
Yeah.
Quite often,
the media
security,
and stuff, isn't it? Like the perception of it.
Quite often, cyber teams aren't there to punish. They're there to just highlight the risks. And,
just lower the risks really as well, yeah.
Very often, we're not the risk owners. We'll make people aware of the risks, and then they make the decision. But we are there to set the boundaries quite often, the laws of the land. You can do this, but there's a good reason why. So maybe we have to explain why.
Yeah.
I'll move on to number 4. Number 4, encourage multi-factor authentication. Advocate for the adoption of MFA to add an extra layer of security beyond just passwords. Now, I think that advice is now. I think if we did this again in a year, that advice would be different.
Yeah.
And you could swap out MFA for passwordless.
No, yeah.
Probably. Or passkeys.
I get, it depends on the size of the business and stuff. But you'd think, a lot of businesses would already be having this as a standard requirement, but there probably are smaller businesses out there that don't use or enforce MFA. You often see a lot of breaches happen because there aren't MFA or they're using SMS.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
The article that this comes from is a Varonis article, and Joseph Avanzato, who's a forensic expert at Varonis, said during a live session, attackers don't break in, they log in, which is, we've seen that even recently with M&S and Co-op. The suspected source of the attack was social engineering on a help desk to reset a user's password.
Yeah.
And that was, suspected SIM swaps for MFA codes. And if that's why we're seeing Microsoft and other people move away from SMS authentication and move away from, now we're moving away from multi-factor authentication, moving over to pass keys, so the device is key.
Yeah.
And you're hearing talk of unphishable, authentication now, which it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I think as well, just with a lot of these things as well, just making it relatable to personal lives and personal accounts. I think a lot of the time people don't bother putting MFA on their personal stuff. And then, their Facebook gets hacked, or their Instagram, or whatever else.
It's madness. It's not it's a bit of an inconvenience, but losing everything is a bigger inconvenience. And you do get used to it. Like, quite often, we've worked in organisations where they've put off making changes to MFA because of the user impact. And in the end, when we worked together, we did it there, we helped promote it, and it was successful. Yeah. Other places I know, they've done it very, very quickly in response to, industry trends, and it's actually been, users have come along on the journey because they've had no choice, and it's not that painful. So these changes, when communicated and managed well, don't have to be really difficult.
No.
Number 3, promote the use of strong, unique passwords. I'm surprised we're still calling them passwords. I thought passwords would have died and we'd be calling them passphrases by now, I have to be honest. That's one thing that hasn't. We talked about changing that when we worked together 5-6 years ago. Where we worked went from like an 8-character password to a 15-character passphrase. So we started calling them passphrases. But the rest of the world hasn't kind of adopted that. They are still passwords. I think it's plural, I suppose, in some ways.
Yeah, I think a lot of times standards aren't updated. You often see platforms asking for a really low minimum or full of complexity. Yeah.
There's note that this said strong, unique passwords. It didn't say strong, unique, complex passwords. Complexity is so if you're using a password manager, which everyone should be, don't be scared of a password manager. They're great. Keeper, NordPass, 2 I've used recently, and they're both really good. If you're using a password manager, then complexity is great because it does it for you, right? You don't have to think about it. But if you're not using a password manager, like, don't ask users to be complex. Just ask them to be strong and unique, which can be long. Complexity is an unnecessary complexity quite often.
Yeah, I think it leads to people making a weak password, and it often doesn't add a lot to it, really.
No. Remember, I'll always remember. I'm sure there was I think it was a password list I saw years ago, and one of the most popular passwords used was Arsenal 1886 ! Or something like that. And Arsenal, the football club, 1886, the year they were founded. I think I'm not an Arsenal supporter. And then an exclamation mark, because that typically is someone's go-to special character.
Yeah.
So I wonder what percentage of special characters in passwords is an exclamation mark. It's probably quite a lot of them.
Probably.
Or an A for an at. An at for an A, for example.
Yeah.
So
it's always, this substituting some words. I mean, there's charts out there which show like the complexity to length in terms of how long it takes to crack it and stuff. And often, the longer passphrase or whatever is just as good, if not better in some cases.
Yeah.
Just having the length.
The other thing is, if you've got good passwordless or multi-factor authentication, like, keep your password strong and unique, but you've got an extra layer of defense there, haven't you? Which is important. Unique we haven't touched on, and that's really important, but also really difficult if you don't use a password manager. Properly unique passwords, not just like my password, Lidl 1, because that's my Lidl password, or my password Facebook 1. Like, some people think it's clever. Oh yeah, what I do is I take the F and the B because it's Facebook, and I whack the F at the beginning and the B. And then what I do is, if it's Gmail, I'll put the G at the beginning and the M because it's Gmail. The problem is, if someone spots that pattern in your password, because one password gets popped, they then see that pattern on all of your passwords. And we know credential stuffing happens because that's how North Face were recently compromised by a breach of usernames and passwords and then shoved in something. And because credential stuffing happens, because people reuse passwords.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely
unique.
I think when you look at stats, it's sort of always a high percentage of people reusing passwords.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like you said, you use it on a personal account and your work account, and then you sort of compromise both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, companies, we used to harp on about that all the time. Companies, like, it's really important that for your company account, or for the company, it's really important that the company account has a unique password compared to their personal account.
Yeah.
Because you have some control over your corporate space, but when you've got people out using Facebooks and all different nature, 90 different logins or however many the average person has, you want them to be different to your corporate account.
Yeah. It's just touching on like some of the complexity in the systems where you'd be like password expiring, and often people will just add an extra character or a letter or a number on the end of it just to sort of satisfy that. And it's sort of, a lot of these things encourage bad behaviours.
Password expiring is massive bugbear for me. It's something that I experience and I don't understand. And I've been part of the discussion around it. If a password is compromised and is out there, it does mean that it's not pokeable. But it does make them weaker. It does encourage people to put a 1 or a 2 or a 3 at the end, which isn't ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you can't reuse the password for the next 10 iterations or something like that, because password reuse also shouldn't be allowed. And then, it's expiring passwords. It's in my opinion, it's such a fake, defensive method. It just encourages bad behaviours.
Yeah, especially if it's a regular thing, people might just run out of ideas. Just something, with a weak password.
Remember, this is an independent podcast and my opinions are my own, not those of my employer. Number 2. So we're in the top 2 now. Number 2, utilise simulated phishing exercises. Deploy simulated phishing campaigns to test and improve employees' ability to recognise and report suspicious emails. Now, there's 2 people we've had on this podcast, 2 guests that wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Erin at Fastly didn't phish. I mean, they didn't have lots of users on email, but they didn't phish. They just did awareness on it, and everyone else communicated on Slack. They were Slack first. And then obviously Terry McCorkill, we had on the podcast previously, who from Fish Cloud, and their system does away with the need really, because you hover over a link and it tells you if it's safe or not based on threat intelligence.
Right, yeah.
So I hate simulated phishing, but unfortunately I kind of see a place for it, but I just think we need to make sure the narrative around it is right. And I'm not sure it always is.
Yeah, I think often it gets relied on as the sort of main piece of a program.
Historically, you go back 10 years in awareness, it was the only metric you had for success or failure. That and training completion. But we'll come to that in a second.
Yeah.
Phishing simulation and how many people have clicked or reported, not even reported half the time, was the only metric you could report the success or failure of your security awareness function, which is probably why security awareness is the lesser funded part of cyber. You've got thousands of alerts coming in here. You've got millions of pounds being spent on EDR and on AV and firewalls, but human risk never gets the investment. And that's probably because the metrics have never really been there and trusted.
Yeah. I think as well, something we saw recently, and we see it a lot, is where companies run a simulated phishing campaign that's controversial or about bonuses and stuff, and you end up upsetting people and you end up in the news, I guess, with stuff like that.
I saw one recently that was similar to the retail attacks that have been happening, especially here in the UK. And I was like, I got it, but it just felt a little uncomfortable to me. And this is the problem. It's I'm a fan, and we did a lot of work on educating and awareness rather than simulating. And I think it's a bold move because everybody simulates, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I need a phishing platform, blah, blah, blah. And indeed, when we worked together, we had phishing platforms, but where we work, we both have a phishing platform now. But I'm a big fan of education and communication. It does, if you get a phishing email once every 2-4 weeks, is that going to move the needle? I suppose if we spoke to any company that provides phishing simulations, they'd probably say it does.
Yeah, I think that is a tricky one. Like you said, it has its purposes, and for a lot of users, I guess it can be beneficial. But I guess it's what you do with the results as well. if you've got people that are failing it a lot, making sure you actually do something about it and not just sort of leaving it as a metric. I mean, there's even companies around the world that fire people from failing phishing and other sort of security tests.
I knew someone here in the UK, used to work in London, and they had to fail people if they failed a certain amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tricky one. There's probably still a place for phishing if it's done right.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure everyone does it right.
No, yeah. Often it's not used for the right things, I guess. You sort of want to use it to build people's awareness around understanding how to spot them. But often it's used as a punishment or a negative sort of thing. If someone's failed more than 3 times, for example, they're bad.
Bring people on the journey with you. I think that's the important takeaway from that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's number 2. So let's just do a recap before we hit number 1. Number 10 was maintain open communication channels. Number 9 was recognize and reward good security practices. Number 8, offer interactive learning opportunities. Number 7 was highlight real world consequences. Number 6, provide clear policies and guidelines. Number 5, foster a culture of security awareness. Number 4, encourage multi-factor authentication. Number 3, promote the use of strong, unique passwords. And number 2 was simulated phishing exercises, which means, according to ChatGPT, the number 1 strategy to enhance cybersecurity awareness among colleagues is implement regular cybersecurity training sessions.
Who would have thought it?
Conduct periodic training to educate employees about current threats, safe practices, and organizational policies. No, ChatGPT. I disagree. It's framed all wrong. User engagement. That's what should be top, not training. Engagement.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I've said this before about compliance requirements as well. Do you train your staff? No, it should be, do you engage with your staff and educate them? It doesn't need to be training.
Yeah. It's often, a lot of these regulations are very black and white with emphasizing that, they must receive
They don't
training.
even ask what's in the training.
No, yeah.
Just the fact, do you do training? And then you have to have a conversation or a persuasion episode with an auditor to explain that engagement is training. Like, I have sent this person 34 emails this year telling them about threats that they face. Is that training? No, because they haven't ticked a box and, answered some questions. It's like, we're measuring the wrong stuff. We should be measuring like knowledge transference. We should be measuring behavior change. We should be measuring how the needle has been pushed or how far the needle has been pushed. And training does not push the needle, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's often just you sort of get the basics in it for whatever satisfies the regulations that you need or whatever, and then just building a program that's around, like you said, communication and regular messaging, and there's platforms out there that do like nudges and behaviour, but they catch a behaviour before it becomes something like a problem.
I would love to see I'd love to see the word training disappear from our world, to be replaced with either, at a minimum, education, because education is there's more ways to educate than train. So from our security awareness human risk world, I would love to see the word training disappear and be replaced with 2 E's, education as a minimum, in an ideal world, engagement. And engagement goes beyond nudges. Nudges are great. There's a place for nudges, right? Nudges are awesome. Some of the nudging tools out there are great and do a really good job, but nudges aren't enough. You need engagement in order for the nudges to land, because otherwise You're just annoyed.
Yeah.
If you're on a bus and you're getting nudged by the person next to you, you'd like, what are they doing? Get off me. Leave me alone. Like, stop elbowing me. But if it's your mate nudging you, like, you're like, oh, stop it. You know, like, it's different, isn't it? Like, eventually it'll become annoying, but it's different. So we need to bring people on that journey and make the nudges feel like they're from a friend rather than from some random stranger on the bus.
You don't be pointing fingers either and blaming people. Be careful with what these sorts of messages, and especially automated messages and auto responses and stuff, making sure they sound like they've actually been written by a friend and a human and not a robot.
Yeah. I think we need to have a conversation with our auditors and with the people that we have to provide evidence of training to see whether or not we can change that control and where that control comes from, and whether or not we can be confident in saying that the engagement we do and the education we do throughout the year is more impactful. And indeed, what did we end up doing? We ended up bringing training right down to a minimum viable product, so it met compliance requirements, because we were confident that we engaged so much throughout the year. And I think more companies should do that. If you're doing quarterly training or you're doing a big, lengthy annual training, why not think about like just doing whatever the minimum required of you is, just so there's just enough perceived knowledge transfer from those above you. And then you can just constantly be in the ear of your colleagues throughout the year. I think that's important. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think training's always a difficult one. Like we've touched on with the compliance requirements, but also, getting people to actually complete it and take part in it. Often, like, you might buy off-the-shelf training, which isn't particularly relatable or fun to do. You can obviously make your own training, but it requires a lot of effort. But
we could make the training for them.
Yeah.
This hasn't been a 47-minute sales pitch, but with many of these, these are challenges that we've faced and we've built our own training before. So if you're interested in something different, get in touch. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear from other people, other professionals around the things we've spoken about and what they do, what they don't do.
Yeah. I wonder how many agree with that top 10. I definitely don't agree that regular cybersecurity training sessions is the number one strategy to enhance awareness amongst colleagues.
Yeah, it's probably just because it's a requirement for certain regulations. It just sort of ends up being number one.
One interesting perspective is which one do you think could do the most damage to your internal brand? Bad training could do some serious damage. Asking everyone to spend 20 minutes of their day when they're busy on some training that isn't relative to them and they don't want to do, that could be damaging to your internal brand and all the traction and goodwill that you build up. So that's quite an interesting one when you look at it through that optic.
Yeah, lots to think about.
Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if we've missed anything. And let us know if you think training is the number one strategy. It'd be really, really interesting to know.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's it for this week then.
Yeah, no. I think it is.
It's been a pleasure. Let us know what top 10 you'd like us to talk about next time. I think, and we'll have a chat. Let us know what your top 10 strategies are. That'd be lovely.
People can email us.
Yes. What's the email address, Luke?
hello@riskycreative.com.
Boom. Brilliant. Thank you for bringing that up. I should have said that. Right. That's all from us this week. So we'll see you again next week.
We're back to a normal episode next week.
Back to normal. Yes. Holidays are over.
Cool. See you later.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.